it's Sandra here at Ridge, and today I'm going to chat with you about our top 12 perennials for easy care and gardening. Thanks for joining me today in our new perennial section at the greenhouse. Now, if you've been here to visit us this spring, you might have thought when you first walked in, where the heck did all the perennials go? Because they used to be out in the very front of the greenhouse as you were walking in the walkway. Now we've kind of redesigned how our shopping area works, and our perennials actually have their own section kind of tucked in behind the greenhouses that you can access from our new retail area. We've divided it up into basically two big sections. So the sunny section, which is out in the open, and then our shady section, which is underneath our shade cloth. So that gives you a pretty good idea when you come where to start if you're looking for plants either for sun or shade. Now today my top 12 plants is going to start with those that are in the sun-loving section. So we've narrowed it down. There's so many. There's hundreds and hundreds of perennials. They're all wonderful, but we thought we're going to pick some that are like the bread and butter or the meat and potatoes of your perennial garden, stuff that's easy to grow, that looks good in everybody's yard, and just to kind of give you a good basic starting point. Number one on our list is sedums. Sedums are fantastic. They come in so many shapes, sizes, colors. This is one that I picked up that's got a variegated leaf. This is called Autumn Charm. It's a frosted fire sedum. It's going to flower late summer or early September. In that time frame, gets beautiful flowers on it. Sedum is one of the favorite things I have in my garden. I've got upright sedums as well as some trailing or ground cover type sedums that are lower. So sedum comes in lots of different varieties and colors. There's a couple great things about sedum. One is that it's deer resistant. So if you happen to have some four-legged deer friends in your neighborhood, they probably aren't going to bother with your sedum because there's much more tastier things around for them. The second thing is, once you've got them established, you can basically plant them and forget them. You really don't have to do much with them at all. They're very low maintenance. They need very little water. Again, when you first plant them, you're going to want to make sure you keep them watered until they get their root structure kind of established in the soil, but then you pretty much can forget them. In fact, if you overwater them or over fertilize them, they tend to get a little floppy. So if you have that happening, you know that you're killing them with kindness, we call that. Too much water. Another thing you can do with sedums, especially in the fall, is to use them in containers. You'll actually often see them in our mixed containers that include fall mums, etc. So that's something to keep in mind as well. And there are some that do kind of trail. So that's kind of a nice feature in a container garden. Number two on our list, Russian sage, and this is one of my favorites. I have it in front of my house on the west side of my house, right up against my brick wall. So it gets full, hot, baking sun. And again, once it's established, it really doesn't need much water, which makes it a real winner in my books. And again, if you do overwater it, it can get a little floppy, so be a bit careful about that. Russian sage is a little bit later in the season to flower, so it does get these tall purple spikes on it. This one's just getting going, so it's going to have those purple spikes a little later in the summer, and it is also a deer-resistant perennial. Super easy to grow, and I actually believe that rabbits also don't like to eat it, so that's another win in my books. Russian sage. Number three, lavender. Now this variety is Hacone lavender. I believe we also have some, I think it's called mumstrid or mumstun lavender, which is a little bit different. Both are going to grow quite prolifically. Love the full sun. So again, these are all sun perennials so far. Love the full sun. Lavender is also great as a pollinator. Bees just love it. It's going to come into flower soon. So it flowers, I would say mine at home always flowers kind of mid-June into July. Beautiful, fragrant, and spreads quite quickly. Now, when I say it spreads, I should clarify a little bit because each individual plant is going to spread wider. However, this is not a perennial that spreads from its root base and makes many more perennials. It's going to be one that each plant will grow bigger and spread out, but it's not going to seed itself and make a whole bunch of different perennials. As well, lavender is not really something that divides very easily, so it's one that you plant it, and if you want to have a whole row of lavender, you're going to have to plant multiple plants. Number four on our list, Blackeyed Susans. We currently have two varieties of Blackeyed Susans in stock. One is called Goldstrom, which has a larger flower, and one is called Little Susie Blackeyed Susan. Isn't that so sweet? And it's actually just starting to flower, so that's cool. Again, gonna grow quite well in full sun. These are also deer resistant, so that's another win. They don't require deadheading, so that's a good thing as well. Very low maintenance in that respect. And believe it or not, Blackeyed Susans are one of the things that can tolerate growing near black walnut trees. So if you have black walnut trees in your yard, that's something to consider as well. These little babies will do okay there. Number 5, coneflower, or also known as echinacea. Now we have echinacea coneflower in a bunch of different colors. You can collect a lot of different coneflower colors. All of them are great. All of them attract bees. All of them love full sun. Very easy to care for, low maintenance plants. They are also deer resistant, and this is also something you could consider putting in a container if you want to do some container gardening of perennials. So yeah, great choice. Coneflower, or also known as echinacea. Next up, Veronica, or also called speedwell. Now these guys, again, are deer resistant, which is wonderful, grow in full sun with very little maintenance. Now, if you do want these to rebloom, see this one's starting to bloom already. They're just coming into flower in people's perennial gardens right now or in the coming week or two. If you do want them to try to rebloom throughout the season, you're best to deadhead these once the flowers are spent. So that's a little bit more work, but I think you can do that to get some new blooms. Another thing to consider is that Veronica, again, different varieties grow to different heights. So please do take the time to read the back of these labels. There's a lot of really great information on the back of here. So if you're not sure about exactly what you're getting yourself into, just take the time, turn over the label, and read what it's all about. So that's Veronica or Speedwell. Great choice. So those are the first 6 that are all for full sun. Our next little group here is going to be the part sun, part shade category. So there are a lot of things that fall into this category. And people always ask, well, how much sun is full sun? How much is part shade? I would say the full sun is 6 to 8 hours of sunshine or more in a given day. And especially if you've got the mid to late afternoon sunshine, that tends to be the hottest part of the day. If you've got 4 to 6 hours of sunshine, especially if it's earlier in the day, that's going to be your part sun, part shade collection of plants, okay? And if you have less than 4 hours of direct sunshine, you're looking for shade-loving plants. Number 7, hardy geraniums. So geraniums are an annual as well, completely different plant category. These are a hardy geranium. They're a perennial geranium. They come in so many different sizes and colors. Again, check out the back of your label. Always great information in there. This one is going to grow to be 12 inches high and get 24 to 48 inches across. So this one's going to spread quite a lot. So it's always good to know what kind of plant you're purchasing and what to expect from it. This is also great for attracting bees. Going to do well. Now it will tolerate full sun, no problem, but it'll also take a fair bit of shade. It's one of those really versatile plants. So that's a definite win. Perennial geraniums are going to bloom quite prolifically all summer long. They will be encouraged to bloom more if you take the time to deadhead them. So that's something to consider. If you're not up for deadheading, you won't get quite as many blooms, but they're still going to look great in your garden. Number 8 on our list is anemones. Now, anemones will tolerate full sun, but are going to grow better in a part sun, part shade location. Again, come in a couple different colors. We have both pink and white in stock right now. Some of these varieties spread very prolifically, so definitely take your time and do a little bit of research. Now, if you want them to spread prolifically, like if you're doing kind of a naturalized look in your garden, these are a great choice. This one's going to get up to 2 feet wide. This one's going to get 3 to 4 feet wide. So they look very similar, but they have a very different growth habit. So definitely read about your perennials when you're shopping around to decide which one's best for your location. Anemones are also great at being deer and rabbit resistant. So that's also fantastic. Number 9, Brunera, or Siberian bug loss is the common name. These have, there's so many different kinds within this variety. So definitely look, some of them have humongous leaves. I'd really like to get my hands on some that have like great big leaves, like bigger than the size of your hand. The variety we have in right now is called Jack Frost. It's a little bit smaller leaf. It does get a forget-me-not looking flower in the spring, so that's kind of cool, and it's an early spring, gives you those sprigs of blue flowers, and then the rest of the year it has these fantastic colored foliage, really lovely. The flowers in the spring do attract butterflies, so that's great, and they will do best again in a part sun, part shade location. Number 10 on our list, Carex Ice Dance Japanese sedge grass is the variety that we have in right now. It'll do well in a part sun, part shade location, which is different. Most grasses need full sun. This is a grass that likes part sun. So it grows quite large, and it's actually very, very hardy. So it's called almost a semi-evergreen grass. It'll often, if you have a mild winter, it's going to retain a lot of this look throughout the winter. So that's kind of cool. It gives you some visual interest even in the shoulder seasons of your garden. And again, this grows into the more part sun to shade category, okay? So it definitely is not going to like a full sun location, so bear that in mind. Staying in the grass variety, number 11 on our list is Hacone grass. I believe that's how you say it. This is a golden variegated version. And again, it's a bit unusual because this is a grass that really does prefer growing in a shady spot. So if you've got some beautiful trees with some shade, this gives you some really neat visual interest. Looks fantastic also in containers. If you wanted to just have a container of this, that would look really, really beautiful. And again, think about it as something as a possibility for maybe a fall planter. You could maybe, add that in for just some visual interest. So our final item on our 12 easiest to grow perennials is hostas. They are a shade-loving perennial, and honestly, I feel like they could have like a whole video just about hostas. Most of them are shade-loving. There are a few varieties of hostas that will tolerate full sun or part sun. Most of them really do prefer a shady location. Hostas are one of those perennials that give me a bit of nostalgia because I remember them being at our house when I was a kid, and they were actually a plant that my grandmother had planted here and was left behind when they moved and my parents bought their farm. So hostas have a little bit of a sentimental value for me. There are so many kinds of hostas, like I'm sure hundreds, if not thousands of kinds of hostas. Some people have whole gardens of just hostas, which is kind of a cool thing. Partly they're loved because of the variety of color in their foliage. They really are very, very diverse. And also the size of their leaves. So some hostas, like Empress Wu, I think is the biggest hosta available. It gets massive, massive leaves. Now, something with big leaves like that does require a fair bit of water, so that's something to keep in mind if you have really a dry area. But when it's in the shade, it's generally not that hard to keep things watered in. And then on the other side of things, you can get something called a mouse ear hosta, which has teeny tiny leaves. They almost look like a miniature. Those are kind of cool in containers. I've actually seen containers of just mouse ear hostas that look really, really pretty. It's kind of like almost like a fairy garden hosta idea. But yeah, hostas, like I said, super, super diverse. Now, I know some people have problems with hostas and getting slugs and snails crawling on them and eating holes in them. There's a natural product called Diatomaceous earth. You'll also see it called slug bait or snail bait that you just put on the ground around your hostas, and that should eliminate that problem. So if you have issues with your hosta leaves getting full of holes, that's the answer for you. And again, once you get these established, they're really super low maintenance. Pretty much every hosta does get a flower spike at some point in the season, and the hummingbirds tend to really like them actually, so that's kind of a neat feature. But hostas generally aren't planted for their flower, much more for their foliage. So that's our list of the top 12 easy care perennials. Like I said, we've got hundreds, if not thousands of different kinds of perennials here. Stop in and check it out. We'd love to see you visit the greenhouse soon. Thank you.